Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out.
Ian, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Much appreciated. Glad to reconnect.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know. I think well, I guess we can start off with actually, how much of an intro did we do last time? Probably quite a bit. The whole thing was about what you're doing. Let's
Yeah,
do a quick intro to catch people up, and then we'll go to the question from the last guest, and then we'll just talk about whatever.
sure, man. Yeah, so I'm Ian Evans. I did an episode a while back, probably like a year ago or whatever, something like that. But yeah, I have a long history in the sport. Played it my whole life in college, in high school. A couple years abroad in Sweden with a club over there. Coached as well, all growing up. Um, Youth, grassroots youth teams, college teams for a couple of years, international youth and clubs and camps abound. That's kind of like the most coaching I've done is through camps. And then since then, I've been working with an international exchange program at an organization called FHI 360. So basically implementing sports-based exchange programs that focus on like community building, youth leadership, et cetera, and various sports, primarily soccer. So there's my little elevator pitch. In 2024, I did launch that. This is an update. Launched the Evans Soccer Academy, which so far is pretty much focused on youth camps. We did Maine this summer. You know, my dad's been doing those for many a year in Maine. So we're just trying to organize it a bit and then build out from here, expand on our summer camps, offer other services, eventually actually become a legitimate academy with like teams. But that's probably more like a 5 to 10 year goal. Separate than that, just launching some interesting little tidbits with our Data and Sport for Good program organization that my partner Desh and I just did the podcast. We're starting it off, really kicking things off, starting some podcast recording, building out our database, and also planning some like in-person initiatives with some soccer training and like leadership and kind of data literacy management programming. But that's my add-on to updates since I last kicked off, but or last checked in with you. But yeah, man, that's me in a nutshell. All soccer, all the time. Love
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
there's worse things to be into, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you two questions, and the reason for this is one, because the first one is from Desh, and you guys talk all the time, so that doesn't really feel fair. But then secondarily, Rick, Susetti always sends me like 3 questions every time, so I've got an extra from him.
Okay.
So the one from Desh is, what does clarity mean for you when leading?
What does clarity mean for me when leading? Well, I want to kick things off with this answer with very much thank you for the prep time on this, Eric, to just be thrown this.
It's a surprise. Yeah, it
It's a
makes it more
surprise
fun.
question. Yeah. Clarity and leading is, I mean, for me, it's pretty straightforward. It's just making sure that you understand what your kind of leadership ethos is and like what your goals are as a leader. Um, Always keeping those in mind with any decisions you're making and like how you're communicating with people. Definitely open and clear communication. Um, Not only does that obviously help get your points and message across, but it helps to reinforce it in your own head if you're like repeating it out loud a bunch of times, like frequently in your communications with people. And then, other than just your general overall approach to leading, like, yeah, keep whatever initiative that you're working on in mind. So if it's like, if you're working on a work project, if you're working on a personal endeavor, if you're working with a team, like make sure you're keeping in mind what your specific goals for those actual like situations are and like repeatedly just have that ingrained and like you're thinking about that in everything that you do and how you communicate. So for me, that's clarity and leadership.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good answer. The communication piece is, I think, for most things, probably the most important aspect of pretty much any relationship, whether it's a coach-player relationship, a romantic relationship, a business relationship, whatever the case. And then like when you're coaching kids or people of different ages, then it forces you to enhance your communication skills because you've got to communicate similar concepts at different levels, break things down in different ways, um, determine kind of what level of nuance you can go into a particular subject with. For me, like that's one of the things I'm enjoying about doing trainings rather than having a team is I've got kids from like 7, 8 all the way up to like college. Um, and at the end of the day, like the better you are at the sport, it's really just you're super good at the fundamentals. And so you break down the fundamentals in one way for the 8-year-old, and then in a different way, like you're tweaking things for a college player or a pro player or whatever. But it's still at the end of the day, it's making the fundamentals better. Like, what's the weight of your first touch? You start teaching a first touch when you're 7, but then when you're a college player or a pro, it's like adding things to the first touch. But it's still really at the end of the day, how good is your first touch?
Yeah.
For that particular instance.
On that
Um,
point, man, like I'm working with like, the local rec teams the past like spring and fall, and like just that point on like working on your first touch as a coach, like, yeah, I'm in a spot where, yeah, I have kids that are kind of more like, early teen, middle school age. And I'm noticing they like many, if not all of them, have never actually even been taught the proper technique on first touch. And like you said, it's something you should be starting to learn when you're like 7, 8 years old. But in their minds, these players like they're like wanting to work on advanced stuff, and it's yeah, it like as a leader, you also need to find a way to motivate. You don't want to make it negative. So it's like without telling these kids like, well, you don't really have the proper technique to work on this. Is like just keeping it like, well, we're the way I coach is like we're going through these stages. Like I do that with the teams I work with. It sets the foundation for how we move forward. Um, so
yeah,
we're going to
it's
do this.
expectation setting.
Yeah, expectation setting in a positive way that's like supportive and like motivating, as opposed to like creating frustrations and scenarios where kids may not want to continue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. I'm looking looking at the questions from Rick. Oh my gosh. This guy, if okay, so for people listening, go listen to this guy's his life makes no sense. Um, Ian, for you background, I assume you haven't listened to the episodes with him. He went from trying to go into art school to running restaurants in LA, to meeting some talent actor person to being like like in the Hollywood whatever, to being in like the movie Die Hard and like a bunch of other things, to then he was like, oh, you know what, I'd rather go do something else. Then he was working with Tony Robbins, and then he stopped doing that and went to go work for like the big defense contractors teaching the engineers how to give proposal presentations, and then he went into banking, and now he's like, you know what, I'll be a life coach. This guy is like so
Yeah,
all
that's a
over the
lot.
place.
It
So
doesn't
he
make much sense. You're right.
no, it makes zero sense. So all of his questions are very in terms of giving you prep time. Uh, we'll go with this
Just
one's not
sling it
so
out
bad.
there. Just sling it out there, man. Get it going.
Um, if money and time were no object, how would you spend your days? That's the least sort of like crazy one. Well, they're not crazy, but the least thought provoking, and
Right.
it is still pretty thought provoking. So, anyways,
If money and time was no object,
yeah, like it.
I would be running full steam ahead with these separate initiatives that I just mentioned.
Yep.
And continuing to do exchange work. Honestly, I enjoy doing my full time job with the exchange work, so I wouldn't even like change that necessarily. But definitely putting more time and resources into these initiatives. If money wasn't a factor, I could just fund them myself and not have to worry about like fundraising campaigns, etc. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I would just do that, and then just other personal relationship building and you know separate family like oriented things, planning future stuff, um yeah. And
Yeah.
then
I'm
doing other
pretty
things I want to
similar.
do, I would probably also travel more, and um each place I go to like a football game at like various levels. I'm interested to see the middle tier stuff anywhere, but definitely want to like see some of these bigger stadiums around the world and get those cultural experiences.
Yeah, my answer would be pretty much the same, to be honest. Um, the middle and to your point about the middle tier stuff, like the smaller stadiums, the atmospheres are super fun. And you get into where,
You'll see good players too, man, like
yes,
all
you'll
over
see
the place.
very good players. You're close enough to the field where it doesn't feel like you're just sitting up in the on the moon watching it on TV. And then like the quality is still good, and then the atmosphere is like more packed in, and the players are more interactive with the crowd sometimes, like doing like shithousery stuff. Like I don't know, there was one clip, it was from MLB, but they're like yelling at a guy in the outfield, of course, because he has time, because baseball is not a real sport, let's be
This
honest.
is also the
But
magic of college sports, man. You
yes,
know, like you get
yeah,
packed into little like wherever it is, like, you'll get rattled sometimes, definitely,
yeah,
because they've done their research on Facebook and the socials and shit,
yeah.
IG.
We did that on we used to go to all the basketball games at Mary Washington where I went to school, and we would have people's Twitters pulled up and like saying like, "Oh, why'd you reply to that guy?" And it's like it's super rant like when they're at the free throw line, right? And so all sorts of random stuff. We had one guy after the game, he followed like the four of us on Twitter back because it was like good, like we weren't being mean to him, but it was funny.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool stuff.
there was one where the NCAA had some rule because our team got into like the NCAA tournament. There was some rule where the NCAA said we couldn't bring in signs, so we brought in a blank whiteboard. We're like, this is not a sign. Like you can't kick us out.
At best, that'll be a temporary sign at
Yes,
times throughout the
it's
game, but
not
it's
a
just
sign. And then somebody wrote on it like whoever we were playing killed Harambe because this was at that time. It's like different things like that. We brought in like a ESPN. We made a fake desk out of cardboard boxes and put ESPN on the front and brought in headsets. And we were like, this is not a sign. This is our desk that we're gonna do work at, and put it at the thing. And the NCAA lady, she by like the third day of the tournament, she was not very happy with us because we came in with different things every day and like tried to sneak things in through the back door. It was like none of it was malicious, of course, but it's like
wait, I don't recall the Mary Washington run. Did you guys win a game or two or what?
For volleyball, they went to the
Oh,
Elite Eight.
volleyball.
So
Yeah.
basketball was my freshman year. And we lost to, I think, I forgot what the school was. But we lost. Duncan Robinson was playing on that team before he went to Michigan. Um,
Was that, was it Williams?
yes, Williams, that's
Yeah,
what it
I
was. Yeah,
remember he
yeah.
was playing there.
Yeah, that was the one.
By the way,
And
NESCAC royalty.
yeah. Um, But then for volleyball, we went to the Elite Eight. So we hosted the regionals. So they won the 64, 32, and 16 all at home. So we had three games at home. Um, and some of them like weren't even close. But anyways, yeah, to the point of the atmosphere, it was like, yeah, it's a good time. You create a fun atmosphere, you get people out and you get enough people and kind of a lot of college kids sometimes if they're shy, they don't want to like cheer or whatever or be super loud. But if you turn it like entertaining, then all of a sudden people are more willing to kind of get into it a little bit more. They're like, "What are those guys at the at the front doing?" It's like, "Oh, they brought in the ESPN desk and headsets for no reason." We had like these cheap blazers as well. We were wearing like jerseys with blazers over them that we got from like Goodwill that day. It was a whole thing, man. But yeah, like Europe. Well, of course we can't bring smoke bombs into the.
No, no, no. I'm not sure we would want to either, but
No, not
I
a
don't know
good
if you've
idea.
even seen the like clips of like it's like Jokic getting interviewed at some point, NBA Serbian guy,
Yeah,
and like somebody asked him like, "You think you'll be able to handle like the atmosphere of the Miami Heat arena?" And he kind of didn't get what he asked for a second, but then when he did, he was like, "Oh no, no, no! Like brother, I played in Serbia." And then
this is
like
no
somebody's
problem.
made these mashups with like what it's like, dude. It's imagine being at like Red Star Belgrade match or whatever, and then it's inside in a basketball arena, like
Insane.
with all the same smoke bombs and stuff. Like it's
I'm surprised.
insane.
I'm
And
surprised those places haven't been burned down.
they're doing something right, I guess. I mean, they know. Look, man, Serbia, those guys, they know their flares and their smoke bombs. You know what I mean? Like they're they're probably totally up to code and like
Oh, of course.
the stadium staff just probably knows how to deal with it because they have to, like
Yeah. Yeah. For people listening that haven't
some of
seen
them are
it,
outdoors
go.
though. Some of them are
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. For people listening that haven't seen it, go Google that. It is nuts. Everyone who asks, like,
Also
oh,
Google Red Star Belgrade, like local
yes.
derby. Yeah.
Yes, those are nuts. Every time somebody asks me who's not like people, I've heard that the atmosphere in Europe is different. Like I've been to a DC United game and they're banging on the drum and stuff, and I'm like, okay, watch this. And there's
It's
flares,
like the
smoke
entire
bombs.
stadium.
Yeah.
Or even in England where it's like, even if it's not the whole stadium, it's like a third or half, sometimes the whole stadium, all
Yeah.
like going on the same chant. It's like, yeah, dude, we don't get that
No.
really here. Like
No.
the most you'll get of that, I feel, is like when a big play is made in like NFL or NBA. It's just like the fan like cheer reaction. It can still be like lit, definitely, and very loud, but like you're not hearing like a 5 minute long chant by everyone in the stadium, like repeatedly, basically all game with different songs and chants, and like that doesn't happen. You just
No.
every now and then it's like defense,
Yeah, it's like
like
nice
every
one.
team does that, so it's not even like specific to your team.
No, it's like nice one, guys. We said a word.
Also, I
Congrats.
don't want to knock MLS too much. And like, look, the people who are diehard MLS fans and have been for a long time and go out and support, like
That's
I'm all
facts.
for that. So I don't want to knock them too hard. But like when they're just pulling chants from all these different clubs all over the world and jamming them together, and it's like the same chant, just sub words out that all many other MLS fan bases use, like that's not the same either, man. Like you
Yeah.
guys got to invent your own shit that's unique to DC and then get that going. Even if you did that 5 times a game, you'd beat every other like
Oh,
fan
for
base.
sure. I wonder if some of the USL Championship fan bases,
I
because
wouldn't be surprised if like
there's some clamoring like with the stuff with the Open Cup last year when I think Don Garber was like, oh well, we're not going to play Open Cup because of whatever. Um, I think the USL Championship was kind of like clamoring around like, oh, we're going to try and get rid of MLS's Tier 1 status or a couple of like, which probably won't happen, but
no, there's no way that's happening.
no.
They should just solidify themselves very firmly as the number 2. That's a good spot to be.
Well, it would be number 2 and 3,
Yeah.
and depending on what happens with Nisa.
And
Um,
women's second and ideally also third. They should
did you
develop
see
that.
there's some new women's team in DC, I think Washington Power maybe or something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
cool.
Is that the USL women's division?
There's
Do you know?
USLW. There is USLW, and out
Let me
here, so
Google
I'm
it.
based in Eugene, Oregon. Out here you have Lane United, which is USL. For the men's side. Just a lot of like UO doesn't have a men's team, but there is like a Lane County community college here that has a team. A lot of players from there. Other it's a lot of young guys, but I think it is just straight up USL two, or
Oh,
maybe USL even.
this is yeah, it is USL women's. So there's a new
Yep.
DC team. It's
So
USL Super League.
nice. Yeah. So there's a women's team with Lane United as well. So there's USLW. So if they
Hmm.
travel, if they're in like the Premier Division, they may play each other.
Yeah. You know what's
Yeah.
interesting? Because they still US Soccer or whoever, these organizations still have to figure out. So I've played both USL 2 and NPSL, and it's basically the
Nice.
same. But the problem is like you have 6 teams in each conference and they only play each other. But if it was
And
combined,
there's a lot of conferences.
but that's why I'm
Yep.
saying like they could easily
It's
if
not that setup is not very dissimilar from what you see in Europe, dude. Though, like the lower tiers you go, the more like divisions of that league there are. So like
no, but I'm
that
saying
works.
there's 2 organizations for the same league and they don't play against each other.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No, but it's the same thing. Like NPSL and USL 2 is exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, just for y'all's reference on NPSL, like I'm 36. When I was 34, I went out and like this was like before I had the comeback with like try hard with you.
Hmm.
When that was really like so last fall we played with like a NVSL amateur men's league, and like that was the first time since I've had like a serious injury in my Achilles that I was actually kind of back to playing like decent, like more closer to like what a good standard would be, for
Hmm.
me. So that was fun, but like for reference on the NPSL team, that will go unnamed here, but it's in the Northern Virginia region. I just showed up. It was one time when you brought me to one of your practices, you just go kick the ball around with them, and I was like, I don't know. And he's like, you're just like, you'll be fine. And I go out there having not played much, and like pretty much, I wouldn't say I was like the best player, but I was definitely in like the top 5 out of like 35, 40 guys that were there. So they offered me a spot on the roster just like on the spot
That
after
was
that.
UPSL.
See, you know what? I'm getting mixed up with everything.
Yeah,
So I
and
guess
NPSL is the other summer one.
yeah, okay. So UPSL is under NPSL definitely.
It's UPSL is technically because the problem is because
But in terms of like quality of player on average, I would
yes,
think.
yes, but because NPSL and USL2 are summer leagues, they're not technically like in the
So
like they are,
so
but
you
like
might as
kind
well
of
just
not.
go cut out my whole clip just now and just get that out of here. Or leave it. Yeah.
I don't know. No, there will be. Yeah, no. Well, yeah, we'll leave it in. We'll leave it in.
We'll
It's
leave it
fine.
in, man.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting because then with the college system, like the college guys can't go try and play pro because then they lose their amateur
Yeah.
eligibility, even though with NIL they'll get paid in college anyways. And it's like, so
They
what?
could
Like,
they
what's
could get paid in college
they
anyways.
they could, but it's like, what's the difference then if you go? I don't know. I don't understand. It's like it's so convoluted in the U.S. that it makes very little
Makes
sense.
it
Like
difficult.
I had no clue. Like if I wanted to get on one of these teams, um, prior to college or during college, I had no clue that any of this existed.
But like that's my question is like was it I don't remember it being existent to this degree past like a couple of years ago. But then again, I'm older and not looking for those opportunities. So
I don't
I'm
know.
not,
There wasn't there like Pro 23 and like PDL and like different things.
yeah, and there's MLS Next has been around for a while, that's been around for at least the better part of 5 years, if not more, maybe probably
Yeah,
more. But like I remember there was kids we were playing with around the region that were on those teams. Um, Yeah. So there was PDL, but that I don't even know what's going on with that anymore. All I'm really hearing about is these like
I
people
think
want to
it.
get linked up with like this USL system. It makes sense.
I think PDL turned into NPSL.
It's
Maybe
hard
I
to
don't
keep
know.
track of.
Well, yeah, it's super hard to keep track of, and a lot of these teams like have bounced around different leagues and are doing different things, and especially when you combine all these leagues that are kind of on a more national or regional scale with like
Yeah.
the local ones who
Like
oftentimes have all the same players under
yeah.
like they just want to play. And
Yeah,
so
they want
you'll find
minutes.
teams like there's teams that are across like 3 and 4 leagues now, like in the
Yeah.
area. And it's just I don't
It
know,
creates weird dynamics
it
among the
does
people involved.
because you've got, for example, you've got a team that plays in only 2 of the like 4 leagues in the area, but the player wants to play in a third league, and so they're playing with their one team in 2 of the leagues, and then they go play like against them with a different team in a different league, and it's like there's so much to keep track of. Um, U.S. soccer's and especially I don't know, it's just it feels strange. Then you got like ECNL for the youth programs now, and then it's like
What
ECNL
is that?
regional.
Specify that for me because I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know to be if I'm being completely honest. Like it's just
Is it meant to
another
be more of like a competitive like prestige
yeah,
to it,
yeah,
or
it's like more of a national type
what age
like
groups is that?
all of them. It's like ECNL regional and then it goes to ECNL and then I think there's MLS next.
Okay.
Um I think that's how it goes, but I don't know. I don't know, people be in the comments being like,
I'm
"You guys
definitely
are
gonna look
dumb.
into this, yeah.
You guys are dumb. You don't even know that PDL turned into NPSL in 2018 and then it turned into I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
That's my
just to
voice
get
for the
out in front
comments.
just to get out in front of that, I'm definitely gonna read every single comment thoroughly, and I'm also not gonna respond. So, um,
There will probably be no comments, but
yeah,
I like having my comment voice. I pull it out every once in a while, like, yeah, it's the comment section, even though there isn't really one.
yeah,
Um,
well, you know what?
that's okay.
Maybe there will be.
One day, isn't that the aspiration to get?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So Anyway, in terms of European stadiums, though, Signal Iduna Park for Dortmund is still the one that I want to go to,
This is a
and
good
I lean.
segue into some. Let's just check in with our clubs here too. But Signal Iduna, absolutely, atmosphere wise, got to get there. I also
Yeah.
got to get myself to the Emirates.
Yes. Yeah, Dortmund, we've done. I don't know. It's tough to say. Like we've had some good results, but then at the same time, like we beat Club Brugge in the Champions League 3-0, but that wasn't really a 3-0 game. And then we beat Frankfurt 2-0, and that's
And then
pretty
there was this
good.
past weekend.
And then there was this past weekend. That's absolutely correct.
It's a 5-1 for Stuttgart over Dortmund. For those who are wondering, what was
Yeah.
that at Signal Iduna? Or was it Stuttgart? I actually don't know.
No, it was at away at Stuttgart, but like it wasn't it
Stuttgart is a
like
very, very good team, by the
yes,
way.
but we
But
took two of their best players. So we took two of their best players and then we lose 5-1. And what's interesting is the week before, Heid
Girassi scored though, didn't he?
he did, yeah.
But
Heidenheim,
he didn't
when we
start the game, right?
let me go
I
look.
don't think he started.
Heidenheim, who we played the week before, hadn't yet conceded a goal, and we scored. We dropped four on them. So I was like, and then we beat Club Brugge 3-0 in the Champions League, and I was like, all right, that's not too bad. Got a good run of results going into the Stuttgart game. We've only conceded 2 goals all season or 3 goals all
And
season up to
then
that point, and then we
and then they
concede
became
five in
Dortmund
one
again.
game. Yes, we did. Grassi did start. He played the whole game.
Oh wow. See, that's what happens when you watch the highlights and one team is very dominant over the other. You don't If I was watching the game, I would have known that, but I didn't.
Well,
You know?
I didn't watch either. I was at a
Well, that's
something.
a
I don't
that was a
remember where I
fortune. That
was.
was a blessing to you.
It was. So I started to look at the game and I was like, oh, okay, down 2-0 at halftime, not great. Then I checked like 30 minutes later and it was like 4. And I was like, not good.
Brutal.
There's a couple things, right? Duranville scored in the cup and then he hasn't played since then. Jan Kuto, who we signed from Girona, has played only a handful of minutes. And then we're doing this weird, like, we let Tom Rota go out on loan. He's a left back. And now we're playing without a left back. We're playing this hybrid like 3.5 type thing where Schlotterbeck plays
Well,
left back, and then we build
Guerrero
out.
is going to be Guerrero's on Bayern's books now.
Yeah,
That would be the obvious.
he been there. He's been there for a while
I
now.
know, I
So,
know, I know you didn't get
um,
rid of him this summer, but
but
it's tough,
so like Ben who's our left back that we signed from Mönchengladbach, is not even playing, and then it's like we let a promising young left back go out on loan, and now we're playing like this weird 3.5 system, and we could have just signed Matson or that Turkish guy who went to Brighton, whose name escapes me. Um, well, it doesn't escape me. I just don't know how to pronounce it. um, but yeah, so I don't really know. And Yan Kuto's not really been playing much. Jamie Gittens has been like he's been good. Emre Chan has not been so good, and Pascal Gross has been good. And then he's playing Marcel Sabitzer out wide, which also makes no sense.
So basically, with Brighton, you swapped. I mean, Pascal Gross is very good, but he's no kid. You swapped you swapped the young, promising talent for Gross, right?
The left back, you mean? No, we didn't sign the left back. We decided that we didn't want to spend the money on him.
All right. Well, cut that out too, or don't. You can just color me simple on that point.
And also, I mean, Gross is obviously a midfielder, but
Yeah, yeah. No,
money
Gross. I
like
thought he was a good addition.
he's
It
been
is
great.
tough. It is tough when you yeah, when you've sent people out in a position and it's like you don't have the clear answer in your team. Yeah, as a fan base, that's going to be tough. It's probably going to be tough for some of the people in the locker room, I would guess too. I mean, just thinking of it as a player, if you're like noticing you have a clear issue at that position or not a settled situation, but you know that you had this other guy that was quality and
Well,
he's just
we don't
out.
we don't really because we still have Ben Sebaini, who just is also on the bench. Um, and he wasn't great last year, but when he was at Mönchengladbach, he was very good. So
No, Ben Spaini is he's a strong defender. Yeah.
And so it's like Schlotterbeck, the first game of the season, got a red card because he's out at left back, and like he's fine there. But it's a mistake that like a wingback wouldn't have made, like a
And it's
second
also you're
challenge.
you're not putting him where like his attributes are as a center back, like especially when he has the ball too. Like he plays
Yeah.
great balls out of the back, but you don't get that same type of positioning and space at left back unless you're going to ask him to play inverted, which I don't think you're going to do with him. And I don't
No.
think that's Dortmund doesn't do that anyway. But like,
No.
um,
We did it with Matson a little bit towards
yeah,
in the Champions League towards the end of the season, and like we beat PSG over two legs in the semifinal like that, and we probably, I don't want to say should have, but we had enough chances to win the final.
you could have. Yeah, it's unfortunate for Matson that he made that poor pass
Yeah.
for the second goal.
Yeah,
But
nobody held that
generally
against him
speaking,
because he had been
for
so
you,
good.
he was quite good for you, and like you said, and pretty much the whole second half of that season, once he got kicked on with you, he was very good.
Yeah,
So
he was
I don't think
great.
you can put too much on him for that.
No,
But
nobody, the fan base didn't either, which I thought was good. Nobody
he's
was
a young
upset with
guy,
him. Yeah,
tired
no,
at the end of a game, made a mistake. It can happen to anyone. But
yeah. The
yeah,
fan
no, he
base,
was.
like Twitter, was nice to him afterwards. It was so
Yeah,
much positivity, which you don't normally get. Although I will say,
he's a young
Dortmund,
guy.
Dortmund generally is pretty, forgiving. Maybe is not the right
Yeah.
word, but like,
No, I think that they have a better community feel about all of it with the fan base. They feel very connected to the team. You see the same stuff with Liverpool, man. Like
yes,
Darwin Nunez got his goal on the weekend. He's been struggling in that game. He had a couple finishes that he maybe could have done better with, but the fans just immediately like applauding him for
yeah,
like giving the effort and like chanting his name. That was on like misses, and then he scored a very nice goal and like the whole like everybody like felt great about it. Like in the
hmm
crowd, it was super supportive. The team came over, so I think when you have those clubs that have that type of like community tie and like really solid fan base that actually is connected strongly with the not only the club but like the squad, everything about it.
yeah.
That's when you get that type of support and
It helps
uh,
with the recruitment as well, like for the
yeah.
players. Like they want to be in an environment where they're not going to get like poo-pooed on if they mess up.
Well,
Um,
look at Sancho, man. I mean, he would very good numbers and great performances for y'all.
yep.
It's I mean, it's not exactly any type of new take, but like, yeah, if a guy feels comfortable in his setup and welcomed, he's gonna feel comfortable, so he's gonna play well, or he's gonna at least be playing more what's up to his like basis,
Yeah.
like his foundation.
Yeah,
Whereas
I'm
if
sure
when
you and
you
I have both experienced that
Of
personally as
course.
well.
Of course. I think every player has who's played for, like, multiple different teams, you know what I mean?
hmm
Like, it's yeah, you need to feel supported and, like, valued by your club, by your team, by your coach, by your fans. Um, Quite a different situation for him at United. Obviously, he had the very high profile falling out last season with Eric Ten Hag, and that's not exactly a comfortable, stable environment, to be like performing in. And generally before that, it's coming into United team that's in huge crisis, and club that's in huge crisis when he was playing games for them. So then he goes to Dortmund, which we just highlighted how connected their fan base is, and yeah, he was already there before. Of course, he felt comfortable. He maybe didn't have huge numbers, but he had very good performances. Um,
hmm
and now he's got it the same thing at Chelsea. You see, he's kicked off really strong with statistics, and not just the statistics, but you watch the games. He's playing the same way he played before, of like getting himself into those positions, really confident on the ball with the like tricks and pullbacks,
Going at people
attracting
one on
defenders to
one.
him, and
Yeah.
then quickly changing speed and direction, going by the guy, and then being very direct, passing a lot of passing. He's got assists, but he'll add goals to that if he stays on this track because we know he will because he's done it before, and he's like I guess you can't guarantee it, but all the signs are pointing to him coming closer back to his form,
Yeah.
and ideally it'll be better because he's older now.
And what really sucks for him in particular is like he's still not like old, but what he's into his like what I think 23, maybe 22,
Yeah, he
23.
essentially lost a couple of years of development. He
Yeah,
wasn't getting the
huge
games.
ones. And those for him, like he was on the trajectory to then I don't want to say like Ballon d'Or, but like he was on track to be one of the top players in the world, and
He
then
was
all of a
certainly on
sudden,
track to be regularly hitting very good numbers with goal involvements
yeah,
because that's just what he was doing.
yeah,
Um, so you see
and
the difference between getting that type of support and opportunity and like progressing through your career. Like look at Mbappe. He he seemed to have signed these deals at the right time. Maybe he should have gone last year to Madrid, just
mhm,
given how things kind of fell out with him at PSG. But like he came up very well with Monaco. I mean, did great. They won a league title. They went Champions League semifinal, and
mhm,
then he transitions to PSG, where he blossomed. Like
yeah,
positive environment for him. He stayed in his country. He's trying to bring the to the next level, bring a Champions League title. Um, obviously PSG has their own issues, but his output was fantastic. So like you see the different, and you can bring that back to Ronaldo, like Sporting to United to Real Madrid.
yeah,
Like it was all set up well for him with the support. Whereas this situation with Sancho, like unfortunately, you see the difference between making the good moves and making like the moves that aren't optimal for you as a person to
mhm,
fit in with person and player to fit in with the organization.
yeah.
And so it's tough, man. It's tough. It's sad to see that he essentially did lose a couple of years of like the quality playing development that you get through playing the matches
Mhm.
more than anything else in terms of being a player.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think even like there's like with Messi or like the one club type players like Francesco Totti and some of these guys that have been in the same place for forever, like, well, they feel comfortable in a place, they feel like they're developing enough, like you don't have to move either. Did you see Mario Götze, and I don't know if it was his like he released a book or something, but it was like he wrote a letter to his younger self saying that he shouldn't have gone to Bayern.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that, but it's like I took the amount of times I've thought like I wish the younger me knew this, or like I wish I could like impart that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that from him. I want to check it out, but yeah, no,
So
I totally understand that sentiment.
speaking of young players moving or not moving, Bukayo Osaka for you guys,
Yeah,
I the Arteta project, I'll call it project. Still, it feels interesting from the standpoint of like it feels very close to a finished product, but at the same time, also. But okay, I didn't see the red card for Trossard. I've heard that it was
red card for
very
Trossard.
against
So
City.
I don't want to get too much into complaining, which I won't. But like I will say, it was in my mind a bit harsh, but also like you're on a yellow. Don't go barging into the back of someone and then just like lashing the ball away. I mean, like that was a bit silly. Just given the fact that he's already on a yellow, take everything out of it. Every
Yeah,
all other factors out of it. Every player. I mean, I never played any first division professional, but like as a player, you know that you can't do that. And if you make that mistake, you immediately know deep down that it's like, yeah, I kind of messed that up. If you're realistic.
yeah. And what so obviously seeing the score line, you guys were up 2-1 at that point. I didn't watch the game nor the highlights really. I just
I
saw
did.
like I saw yeah, talk us through then because like I saw somebody said something along the lines of like, oh well, if Mourinho or like Sam Allardyce does it against City, they play boring football, but when Arteta does it, he's a genius for I guess like but at the same time, it's like you want to get a result
Well,
like
yeah,
Eddie had against City. So it's like I don't
you see
understand.
people
I think
say that.
was it Roy? I think it was Roy Keane, maybe. I don't know.
I
He
did. I
said
missed Roy's takes. I do enjoy his takes. I missed it though.
I don't know if I you know what? I don't remember if it
But
was
I mean,
him. I'll take that back.
there's plenty of the opposite sentiment out there from like pundits and comment people as well, comment
Yeah.
section people. Um, so I watched the game. Granted, I was on the phone with my dad for a lot of it, and he's also a huge Gunners fan, so may not have watched it as closely um, as you'd like. But you know, I think that City were very dominant. They scored early with Holland. Classic Holland movement. just peeling off, getting in between defensive pairings and making strong runs into the space that he's kind of created for himself, and getting a good finish. Um, I think that we got when Calafiore scored, which was a hell of a goal, by the way. That really turned the tides a bit, and I think we started playing a bit more, at least committing to the counterattacks. And we got the second goal off the set piece, which something we're very good at. Um, poor defensive actions for them, I would say, on multiple set pieces, including that goal. But yeah, once the red card comes, I mean, which I would have to say, like, on the whole, it's like I can't really have complaints about that red card, man. Honestly,
Mm,
it's just got you got to stay to 11 man away at City, but we held out. I mean, the defense was fantastic. I questioned because he took Saka off at halftime, left
hmm.
Martinelli on, and brought on Ben White, so we had like the back five.
Yeah.
Timber played great all game. I know there's statistics about his passing, but he was super good defensively, which is what he was in there for. Um, so he went like over 5 on passes, which essentially means that he probably went mainly over 5 in the first half, and then the second half was like it was just. I mean, you may have seen the statistics. It's insane. There was like an outrageous amount of shots and passes in our half, and we only had a couple passes in their half. But it's like, yeah, we're away at City with 10 men, so that very clearly became we're gonna defend. We have a lead, we're gonna defend it, and
Yeah.
I think we just got too tired at the end. And it's City; they keep pressing you. They got a corner, they scored late. I thought. I mean, getting a point at City is good no matter who you are or what the circumstances are. I don't care what anyone says about going away and drawing and like, oh, you didn't play expansive football, like you're not coming to win. It's like, yeah, dude, you have to make sure you don't lose. You don't play against a team like that open.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's just people getting frustrated by results when they affect them, and they feel that they maybe should have got more out of it. But to me, that means the team did a super solid defensive job. I, you know, I think we tied 0-0 there last year. We beat them 1-0 at home. We all so close to beating them away, but drew with 10 men. So we didn't allow them to expand the gap of points. And like Carlo Ancelotti said this long ago, if you just tie your like main title components home and away, or just don't lose to them, that's like amazing. And then you
Yeah.
take care of the rest. And if you do that, you have a very good chance to win the title. And this is Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, like,
Guy knows how to
or
win
like,
titles.
yeah, it's not as though he's won a cup or two in his time, hasn't he? So like, there's always differing opinions and viewpoints, and it's like, yeah, you could have the viewpoint of like, we're going to go to win. It's easy to say that when you're City and you have like two full rosters of excellent talent. Nobody else has that in the Premier League. We're the closest, and we don't have that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, super happy with the point. Upset with the red card because obviously that's now creeping back in with Declan Rice getting one a couple weeks ago. He had Odegaard's out injured for a few months. Like, sounds like some ligament ankle damage. Um, Hopefully he'll. I mean, that's 2 to 3 months out, and then he
Yeah.
has to come back and get fit and get matches. So he's not going to be sharp for probably like closer to four
Christmas.
months, maybe less because he's such an elite player. But
Christmas probably.
yeah,
The good
man.
the good thing
So
about Christmas is like, well, I guess you guys don't have the break like the Bundesliga does, but the Christmas kind of period, there starts to become a lot of games, and so there will be opportunities for him to get minutes at the end of games more often than
right,
otherwise.
right. But there are also games that you need to win, and like I think that we're talking about Arteta's project, and it's like I think there's clear signs of progress each season. I really love the fact of how defensively sound we are because that means we haven't lost a game. We haven't conceded many goals. Um, so when you have that foundation, and it's like, yeah, Odegaard's out. That's a big loss. He obviously ran. We have to figure out who's going to be the guy to run that stuff in there. And we're going with Trossard. It worked well against Spurs. but then he gets himself sent off here, so he's going to miss another match. So it's like, yeah, you got to be more disciplined. You can't afford, like, we already dropped 2 points that we shouldn't have against Brighton because of this.
Yep. Yeah.
We should have won that game. I think we probably even still should have won it with 10 men. We actually created chances.
Yeah, I
That was
think
a
so.
sloppy goal to give away. But yeah,
Did
I
you watch the
mean,
cup game?
I did, but just to finish out, yeah, no, the cup game was great, man. Like 5 goals, a lot of young players played, young guys getting goals, fantastic. Like that means these guys are getting ready to potentially fill in for us again. Like not necessarily like they're going to be the player that comes on and scores and we beat City or Liverpool, but like the other games that we're playing, like bottom half teams, even all the way up to top 6 or whatever teams in the league, like even
Yeah.
creeping into that, like they're showing that they have the capacity to potentially come on and give a really good performance or, get a goal or two. But it does seem that our like first team attack, certainly without Odegaard, is missing something, which you would expect because he's kind of our general in there. Um,
Well,
any team would miss a guy of that importance in their squad in that position would be understandable if they were having to shuffle and find their feet for a few matches.
yeah.
But that is also is like, yeah, who's going to play that spot?
I didn't realize the Carabao Cup was on Paramount Plus now, which is very annoying because it was on ESPN Plus and I had it,
It's
and now
frustrating, isn't it? All the
it's
all the
like
streaming stuff.
it's so
But
irritating.
but to your point, I don't know if you're trying to get at like Saka's young. If they don't win soon, is he going to bounce? I think he's a local kid.
No, I was gonna say I don't think he will. He'll be one of the
Yeah,
ones that will try to make that decision to
and
stay.
you've already seen that he has done that. He just keeps re-signing the deals. Um, yeah, so I think we're gonna need. He's gonna need to step up with goal involvements. He has been. He's getting all those corners and like yeah, they're corner kick assists, but it's like they're corner kick assists in large part because of how quality his set piece taking is. So
Also, he
that's
wins
super
half of
valuable.
them. He takes a
Huh?
guy one on. Also, he wins half the corners. He
Yeah.
takes a guy one on one down the line. Ball gets poked out. Like,
Yep. Exactly. And that's a good outcome for the defender even too. But then it's like not many teams are as good as us on set pieces where we're gonna if you give up more than like a handful or more than 2 or 3, we're gonna punish you. Even if you give up that amount, we might. So
yeah.
most teams that's not going to be the case. But
What do you think is missing for you guys in the project? And the reason I ask this is because, like, the way that, for example, you've got
the goals, it's the goals.
well the goals, but what I was gonna say from a personnel perspective is like it seems like the coaching now is so built around creating a system that's interchangeable with players. And
Hmm.
so you're getting the profile of player that fits how you play. But the
Yeah.
problem with that is when you've got Saka, Odegaard, and insert Ben White or Timber at
Hmm.
right back who can play similar. Like I feel like that's kind of
Well,
similar enough. But when you've got those two, like those are not there's not another Odegaard type player
mhm.
just floating around,
And that's
really.
where I thought that, that I mean, yeah, you don't want to bring Declan Rice. He gives so much stability. You want him at that 8, like forward and back. Maybe not even Lampard 8. I mean, I guess you would want him Lampard 8 because he has the quality to finish those chances off. But um, so yeah, defense. This is what we're talking about with squad building. Like City has players that can come in. If De Bruyne is out, you can put Foden there. Like, and is gonna be a little different, but he's gonna create a lot of chances. He score goals as well. So we need to get more cover with a similar ish profile to Odegaard. Um, we need to like direct back up to that. If that's going to be how we run our offense and our system, it can't be dependent without somebody who can at least step in with similar attributes.
Because
It might not be the same output.
if you're gonna play the same way, it's like a lefty, like 10, like half
It doesn't
space
even
type
necessarily
player.
have to be lefty. I mean, it could be righty, but like they have to have the similar attributes. So they have to be able to press immediate. That's when he's elite with that of
Hmm.
pressing high up the field. He wins a lot of challenges. Um, I mean, some of the passes he makes, you can't necessarily expect. He'll scoop balls through. He plays some unbelievable through balls into
Yeah,
very
he
tight
does.
areas. Ideally, you'd have someone who can somewhat, someone who, I mean, there's players out there that do that. Plenty of players are have that in their toolkit, but it's just the level that he does it at is very high. So um, it doesn't need to be exact, but like someone with similar attributes that can just slot right in, that they've been brought on for that purpose. They understand that's their role and they're okay with it, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it looked like Fabio Vieira was going to be that for a lefty, kind of same
right.
build, similar. And then he's on loan, isn't he?
He's on loan back to Portugal. Yeah, back to I think where he came, the club he came from. I think Porto. It might be Sporting, but he's back there. Um, yeah, I think that he just lacks the same level, like aggressive
Yeah.
physical play that Odegaard does. So you need
Yeah,
that
yeah.
ball winner that also can play. You know, and it's not that. I mean, I mean, you and I have seen. It's not that there's not players like that out there. You know, so that goes up to every level. You can find plenty of guys that would, I'm sure, be happy to come onto this project Champions League. You know, you're going to get some games, you know, and if he
Yeah.
gets hurt, you're in, you know.
Well,
So
because they're playing 70 games now. Like
exactly.
it's insane. It's the amount of games. Like I remember playing like FM or whatever. I was always hoping for because you try to build out a squad and then you don't want your
Mhm.
players to get annoyed with you. So you're like, yeah, I'm hoping for deep cup runs all the time or whatever,
Yeah.
so I can get minutes to all the players. And then I played FM this year, and like with Dortmund, and I tried to redo the summer how they had done it because the new FM doesn't come out for another month or whatever with the new
Okay.
roster. And so I tried to keep the roster like how it was constructed just to see. And immediately we're like three midweek games, two suspensions, and an injury, and I'm like, I don't have a left back. It's like,
Same
it's like,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, well, not left back, of
Not the
course,
same thing, but
using the Dortmund position, but it's like, or in this instance right now, is I don't have a striker because I
yeah.
have three strikers, one suspended, two are injured, and it's like in the game you can put Malin up top or Adeyemi or whatever up top,
But
but
that's not
like,
going to work in reality. Is yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could probably get away with Malin up
You
top.
do false nine with him.
Yeah, but the point being is like, okay, now he's not playing well in the game. Who do I bring on? It's like no, there I have no like I'm youth players are on the bench and stuff, and you might say, well, that's poor squad building. It's like, well, I'm trying to keep it within level of like
Yeah.
somewhat realism. Um,
But
and when
going
you
back
have
to
that many
what you,
games, it's like you're gonna
yeah,
have games where you're playing half the second team just because like you have to.
yeah. But getting back to the Arsenal, like the other thing I think we do need is like we need that striker like signing. It just like Havertz has been very good in that position. He does a lot of the work that is super important for us. He's really high rate in his challenges. He has the quality to finish. He's adding headed goals to his game. He wins like I think the most aerial duels out of any striker in the Premier League, or right up there with the best of them. I mean, he's 6'4". He's got size. He also move. Um, but I think I would have loved if we picked up Ivan Tony for a relatively decent price, like someone like that, maybe a little younger than him.
What do you do with Jesus then?
I mean, for me, I think you still incorporate him. I rate him more as a winger than as a center forward, but like Martinelli is not necessarily getting much output. Why not give Jesus some minutes on that wing? You know, we'll see what
Outs
Sterling can add,
yeah.
but like I would like to just have the different option of someone who is just like brought up as a number nine, like gonna get in the box, gonna get rebound goals, gonna get. I mean, he'll get the quality goals, like play him into his feet. Um, Someone who is maybe more of a modern style number nine.
Are you
I
guys
know.
linked with Vlahovic again from
I
Juve?
think we were linked with him. We were more heavily linked with like Victor Gyökeres, which I
Oh,
think
yes, yes,
would have
yes.
been a really good one. Alexander Isak, yeah, I think he would fit really well into our style of play, but he also brings that like more. number 9, like he'll go for goal, he'll get in there, score headers. He gets himself into the penalty area, you know.
He's also
Um,
going to cost a boatload. Isak
yeah,
will.
I'm not just so like that's a guy who I've been following him since even before when he was on loan from Dortmund, like other places, you know. And then when he
Yeah,
came
yeah.
up with Dortmund, like I was even like then like go sign this kid. He's really good, you know. And then Newcastle signed him, and it's like, of course, he's very good, you know.
Yeah.
His main thing is injuries, which not what we need.
Yeah.
Um, I would have loved Ivan Toney if we could have got him cheap, ish, but he's out there in Saudi now. There was, I guess, nobody really bit for him in the Premier League, so
I think
at
the
least for
like
that price.
the betting stuff was probably
Betting stuff was
teams
big. They
teams
want a
wanted to
guy that,
stay away.
yeah, I think so. Um, so I think just to round that out is I like we've got really good cover defensively. We've got a lot of wing cover now because we've got like Jesus can play out there. Sterling can play out there. Other guys that are coming up as well. But yeah, adding like if Nketiah could have been that guy, it would have been good to keep him. But I think it's like, yeah,
Did you sell
time to
him or
go.
is he on loan?
Yeah, we sold him to Crystal Palace. Yeah,
Yeah.
Reece Nelson's on loan at
And
Fulham with
Balogun
Emerson
was sold as
Rowe.
well.
Hmm?
Balogun is sold as well, not on loan
Yeah, Balogun was sold like
last
before
summer.
last season. Yeah, over to Monaco. Um, and it's like, yeah, those guys wanted to go. They weren't going to be selected. I think they knew that, so fair enough, you know. But I do think it would have been good to bring a more goal threat up in the front line, not just goal threat, more goal output in the front line,
Hmm.
um, and the Odegaard style ish backup. You
Yeah,
know,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Um, all right, let's talk about the Nepal thing, and what you guys have got going on with that, because I think you just started a GoFundMe. So let's see, we've got some time left. So let's I don't know, give like a we talked about it a bit with Desh on last week's episode. Um, but what's the goal? How'd you guys get involved? What's the plan? And then tell the people kind of how they can support and why they should support.
right. So yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier. It's our Statloba initiative. Yeah, my partner Desh Deepak and I have known each other since college, so quite a long ways back. Really close friends. So we decided we wanted to start this Statluba business. He's got a lot of expertise in data management and support services. So we're gonna the original idea, data management support to different sporting entities, starting with soccer because we've got both a shared passion there and a lot of info and a lot of background and contacts, etc. But we also so we're working through that. We're working on building up towards that launch, but we also realized like okay, we actually have decent expertise between ourselves of like being able to deliver services to clients and then expanding that out that both of us are very kind of service oriented. That's my whole career kind of got these contacts in Kathmandu, which is also Desh's hometown, that he's very connected obviously with people there. We could do a 3-day kind of like mini program in the local community in Kathmandu for any local youth who would like to enroll in it. Um, it would essentially be 3 days of like first half of the day, like soccer clinics. So giving them a place to play, giving some basic instruction, playing a lot of games, focus on building community through that. And then the second half of the day would be like classroom sessions, some youth leadership stuff, some positive youth development, also some information on like data literacy, how to navigate kind of like social networks through the internet in a positive way that can benefit you, but also like safe, healthy way as well. And, some other topics. So we got connected with someone who I've worked with in the past who works with the We United project in Nepal, which is based in Kathmandu, but has some other outposts elsewhere. But they focus on promoting girls and women empowerment and like positive youth development through sporting initiatives, which is pretty much all soccer. They may have some other stuff in the fires I'm not aware of, but it's very soccer focused. So it's life skills building. It's giving them a place to play for free, like on a frequent basis with teams, with coaches. They also have an academy like set up where um, they have some teams in that as well for youth to come. So I've met one of these people through my work who is like an administrator, coordinator with the program. So I'm very familiar with what they do. And we just basically had the idea, connect with them on it. And since they've already got like doing very similar work, got a great base, offer it to partner with them for this program. So we've connected with them. We're all on the same page, super excited about it, aiming to do this in springish of 2025. So we're looking at having to, obviously book flights, international flights for Dash and myself, do any visa stuff, get some lodging and food. Hopefully we can kind of like pair with people in the community to get lodging and food set up. But if we don't, we'll need to cover that. Room rentals for the classroom space sessions, and then, field space rentals, equipment. And then, so those are like the key areas where you mentioned we started the fundraising campaign. So any funds that we raise through that will go directly towards those costs of just focusing on the program. And, we've got our different competencies we're bringing to the training. We've got like the speaker sessions all lined up, Statloba covering that. But yeah, essentially we want to make this a no cost program for all of our local partners there. So we don't want to have We United have to like pick up the tab for any of these rentals. We don't want the kids to have to pay any cost to make any of this happen. So yeah, that's essentially we'll be aiming to provide like meals at each program session for all the kids, like have meals together, really connect with people through that, give them really good healthy option, and then kick off with the soccer training in the afternoon. We also are aiming to, as part of this, so We United has youth coaches that they support. So like these are girls that have like come up through the system as players and then kind of graduated into this, like they're given a job as a coach. So they're the ones who are like leading a lot of these sessions. So we also are going to give them kind of more like advanced training and like coaches training to them, like, so that helps support them with their work. Also the leadership and kind of more age appropriate digital literacy competencies trainings, women's empowerment through sport, etc. Because those coaches are typically like high school age, a bit older. So we just want to round this out and support not only the youth in the area, but We United as much as we can. So yeah, if you'd like to help support women's and girls empowerment through sport and data for good in Kathmandu, that is what any donation that you might make would go towards supporting. If we end up with any type of like surplus of funds, we will funnel that into the program itself, either through like, bringing extra equipment for donations or cash donation, adding additional components to the program that might cost a little. So any surplus will go to that. If not that, we're also now tentatively planning for some future international trips that will do basically this same model of program, but in different communities elsewhere, also available in the US, but And so if any surplus funding still remains, it'll just kind of go towards the planning for that. So it'll support all of these types of initiatives moving forward. So I know I just threw a ton info at you, but um, yeah, that's kind of like the pitch of the project and explaining the importance of it and what any support that someone might offer would actually go towards funding, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think obviously this sort of initiative through sport is always a good way to make a difference in the community. Sports is always is kind of a natural icebreaker for that. Like, who are these random people that are showing up in my town? Sport is always an amazing way to do that. Soccer, especially, it's the world's game.
Yeah.
Um,
And also on
and
that point of just like who are these people showing up, that also shows like that's the importance of having that local partner. So like that's another kind of differentiator, I guess, with us versus some other similar programs you might see that don't have that type of like local partner. Like they're very well respected in their community. The U.S. Embassy over there has like partnered with them a ton of times, just to support their initiative because they think it's great, you know. So um, yeah, that just to get to the point of like having a good local partner, they'll be there with us with those kids, so they'll already know like
yeah,
they're friends of these. Like okay, this is good,
yeah,
you know.
I think the online thing is important as well. Like, even in the U.S., um you see kids with higher rates of depression and anxiety, and half of it's or not half, a large portion is due to social media and different influences from that. You see, like, oh, what do you mean I don't have a Lamborghini and a gazillion dollars by the time I'm 12? I'm so far behind. Or cyberbullying, of course, that kind of term has gone away. I haven't heard it that much recently, but it still exists.
Right. And also on this point, like now the AI is becoming more and more prevalent throughout
Mhm.
society in general, but also definitely like the average online user is now being exposed to a lot more AI generated content, which, as we know, doesn't necessarily always ring the truest, be it in text form or like, visual formats.
Yeah,
So that's a component of our programming that we will definitely be sure to touch base on as age appropriate. Maybe not
yeah,
talking about this with like 7 year olds, but yeah, if they're
no,
in
of
that
course.
like middle school, high school range, it's important to know to be able to discern like reality from non-reality and fact from random made up
Yeah,
texts. So we're going to be doing our best to impart some practices that people can use to like be able to discern between those things. So not and definitely all those other points you mentioned that kind of reminded me of the AI piece as well.
yeah. And I think as well, the not data literacy necessarily, but Desh was mentioning that this will often be the first time some of these kids and people are exposed to this sort of technology, and so to have somebody guide it a little bit, say, hey, be on the lookout for this, don't do that,
Yep.
don't click on links from Nigerian princes, and don't do this, and like, what was the other thing I mentioned with to Desh? I forgot exactly. There was some story about some, I forgot what it was. But somebody dropped off some iPhones like in the Amazon, and they had some service, and then everyone in the tribe like got addicted to the phones, and it's like completely
Yeah.
ruined it. I think, does that ring a bell to you? Do you remember reading that? Um, I don't know.
I remember seeing some content about that out there of like, yeah, the new smartphone technology got introduced to some like maybe like low human contact
Yeah.
groups, and like yeah, then they just quickly fell into like the same types of bad habits that we all as
Yep.
society have developed.
Yeah. So it's good to give it, like, you're kind of giving an introduction to the technology with a warning label on the box, like a warning label that the rest of us didn't get when we were
Yeah,
13 or whatever, when we
we were
first got.
learning by doing. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it'll be helpful for like you said, just getting some guidance from a young age, like none of us got that, because the info just wasn't out there really. Like it was all just happening in real time, and like to a
Yeah.
degree, obviously that's still happening now, but um, plenty of people, and Desh in particular, just given his line of work, like very well versed in the subject and well placed to be informing people of these potential pitfalls, and also not only that, but like he's got background in coding, so like he's able to not only like digital literacy also consists of, he'll be able to teach some skills that may actually be like useful for people in their either personal but potentially even like professional development
Yeah.
lives, because
Yeah.
they can have some skills that they have that they own, and they can master and take and expand from there, etc. That is a skill set that they will have that is relevant and valuable in our growing societies and economies. And it's something that a lot of people don't have. I mean, plenty of people do have it, but being able to have those skills to fall back on and maybe be able to do something for yourself is incredibly valuable for anybody, but especially to maybe some groups of folks that typically don't really get access to this type of stuff. That was one thing in our talks with our We United partners. They just really highlighted, and I'll also say this gets back to the point, or the point of like supporting an initiative like this really having an impact. That the We United partners relayed to us like this is so valuable for the youth in our community, not only because of like the obvious potential benefits of it that anybody could take, but because there's such a lack of this type of opportunity, not only for people in Nepal, but specifically like young girls and young women that have been historically really kind of left out of these types of opportunities.
Hmm.
So you think about that in the US context, and then you think about it in an altogether different context that is typically a lot less privileged, a lot less access to this type of technology, like you were talking about, and like Desh was talking about last time, and yeah, lack of like access to opportunities in general. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, we're really hoping to. Yeah, the key point of all our initiatives is how impactful can we be in a positive way, that really supports the people that we're working with, and it's also something that we're incredibly passionate about as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Link for the GoFundMe and more info, of course, will be in the description. Any last nickels or concluding kind of wrap up statements? I feel like you summed it up quite nicely, but
Yeah, probably don't need to labor or belabor the point any further. But yeah, check out those links. We're going to be kicking off Statloba podcast, where we review as many things soccer as we can. We're aiming to launch it at the end of next month. We'll share out with that once we do. Also going to have the Statloba website coming live and socials coming live, kind of in correspondence with that launch. So keep your eyes out. But much appreciated, Eric, for having me on. Always good talking, and yeah, keep it easy over there with the playing, and try not to go too crazy. Being a Dortmund supporter.
oh, that'll give me a heart attack at some point, I'm sure. You're missing penalties to win the Bundesliga and losing the Champions League final. Well, it is what it is. All right, guys, go check the links out. To all Ian stuff, fundraising and all that stuff will be in the description as always, and we'll see you guys next time.